Welcome to Prime Suspects. Alongside Adam Bjorn and Prime Sports co-founder Joe Brennan Jr., I'm your host, Matt Landis. Adam, the dog days are upon us. Where have you seen the most noteworthy action over the last week at Prime Sports and BetCris?
Well, one wouldn't never thought they'd say this before, but yeah, thank God for baseball. I mean, it's really the only thing on right now. Bit of tennis, bit of golf, bit of WNBA, but yeah, bulk of it, I think 80% plus was baseball last week. From memory, I think we actually had a good week in each of the 4 states. I mean, it was kind of a week just to sleep. World Cup done, don't do much else. Get ready for football, but don't get ready for football and just sort of take a bit of a break. So all in all, solid week, just baseball.
All right, and it was a slow week on the sports calendar, but not on your personal calendar. You wrote this past week about buying Prime Sports out of bankruptcy, cutting overhead by 40 to 50%, and fixing the trading errors that caused half of last year's losses. Now that the process is complete, we'd love it if you could share your reflections on the last few years building Prime Sports to this point, and as you look ahead, on how your vision for Prime Sports today compares to that vision at the outset.
Well, let's sort of hold some of that accountability as well. We were the traders in a lot of those mistakes. Ultimately, Planetech was or is the engine behind what Prime Sports was. We didn't have as much to do with on the front end, customer service, things like that. You know, our technology, our traders, and all those kind of things as well. So it was more of just taking a look at it. Currently, I'm editing part 2. I know everyone will be enthralled about that. But yeah, just kind of giving a look behind the counter, something that I think doing a bit more of, trying to share that experience and kind of build that community of take a look, this is what we're trying to do, seeing all the, carnage on the side of the road that others had come and gone, but also having the moments. Like, what the hell are we trying to do? We were looking at the World Cup kind of being a bit of a coming out party, getting stuff in order. Ohio was closed for pretty much the entirety of it except for the final. And it was really prediction markets coming out party. So we really looked at this as football season, going through the bankruptcy, taking the reins of it. The day-to-day operational team is still in place. I was actually in New Jersey for the afternoon yesterday, letting them know that, what they were doing is good. Build on that. Cavalry's coming, bit more resources in all departments. But yeah, just trying to share some of those challenges of going through this whole process.
And you touched on Ohio as part of that process, recently relaunching in the Buckeye State. What can you share about the process it's been to navigate everything specific to Ohio over these past few months?
Well, throughout the entire bankruptcy, it was really 2-3 team parlays. You had to get the market access partners on board, which New Jersey changed from Oceans to Caesars. You had to get the regulators on board, and Ohio just got caught up in a bit of paperwork and their process, and we weren't maybe on the ball enough to sort of get it in time to sort of hit their meeting dates and things like that. But speaking in front of the commission last week, told them Ohio's a very difficult state. Their tax regime doesn't really fit what sports betting really is. And thankfully, I've learned from Joe, the regulators are different than the legislators. So I did premise my comments with that about it's very difficult doing business in Ohio with, their upstate or wherever it is coming in saying we're going to close this down, or $10 bets or $100. We had a serious conversation with ourselves of, do we even want Ohio? Because the cost of doing business there is difficult when it's a startup, when you're not making money every month and whatnot on that. And then on the back of it, with the legislators saying they're going to turn it back, they regret what they did and all those kind of fun things. So in the end, we went through the more expensive way of this bankruptcy. We went through the share purchase rather than an asset purchase, and we could have picked out the eyes, save some money, vendors being left on the side of the road, kind of thing like that. But the goal was to make everyone whole, everyone included, keep this thing humming along. Now that we're on the other side of that, it's really okay. It's football season, college football, professional football. How do we tackle this? How do we do it differently? Watching what others have done, and even, again, the prediction markets. I mean, they've caught fire. There is a lot of momentum behind them. One of our gambles is obviously that somewhere along the line, the federal, the Supreme, or whatever it is, kind of slows them down and whatnot. But yeah, that's kind of the gamble of the business we're in as well.
And Joe, let's bring you into the fold at this point, because Adam's column reads like a broader thesis. Distressed sportsbooks weren't falling on demand, just cost structure. How would you respond to that as a read on the graveyard of operators? And what could make Prime Sports the exception from your point of view?
Well, first, I heard from a couple of people who were under the impression that Adam was throwing me under the bus with this article. He wasn't. I would say the 80% of what he discussed in his article were things that they were left behind when I left Prime. I really missed out on that free lunch thing. I kind of missed that. But no, I think it's kind of agonizing because you think of what could have been. But the difficulty is that Prime arrived on the scene, like just past the crest of the first wave of the post-PASPA euphoria. And so Prime was paying, we'll say, 2018 prices to enter the market in 2022. And by that time, the waters had already started to recede. You already had some body bags being lined up with some notable operators, European operators that would come in. They had spent top dollar to come in, not only get market access partners, get licensed, some of the marketing deals, the partnerships. It was just unreal the way things got priced. And here we come toddling in, just trying to be like, hey, look, we're going to be humble bookmakers. So that was really difficult, I think, because you really got to say that we ran into a buzzsaw with the market going, from a product perspective, going so hard for SGPs, and we did not have them at the time. And, if you're 35 or under and you're betting in the United States in a regulated market, you're playing SGPs. Like they're going out of style. It's not a criticism of our product. Our product was never meant to be that kind of thing. It was meant to be what, we've excelled at over the years. It's a place for people to be able to get a large size bet down. Winners were welcome, are welcome. A place with like great customer service, and it was meant to build a relationship with players that was supposed to last years, not seasons. And just the pace of the operations, pace of the industry seems to have just increased to the level that it's almost been, I'd say, factored into sports betting culture now. Players practically expect to be treated poorly. They're really out it's a, what are you going to bonus me kind of world. Even with like the long-term players that we know. I mean, I know street guys who are telling me that they're hearing from like long-time credit customers and like, well, when are you going to bonus me some? The industry got so distorted with the way things were handled post-PASPA. I mean, Fan Kings couldn't have found a better way to disrupt anybody who came up behind them, because they just made they made this industry an offers-based, bonus-based, marketing-based, it's SGP-based industry. In a lot of ways, I'm very disappointed, because America had a betting culture, still has some of a betting culture. And that somehow got largely left in the wake as a lot of overseas companies came here and left their imprimatur on our newly regulated marketplace. So I'm glad that Adam is getting the chance to kind of like clear the decks here. I think having somebody like Caesars as your market access partner, so many things that can be done with it, both in Ohio and New Jersey. Market access partners were really only good for that state. There wasn't a lot of latitude that you had with them. It's really brought the cost down, really rationalized things. So I'm glad he gets this opportunity to kind of reset things. And so it's my hope, even though I don't have a stake in Prime Sports any longer, that, had a lot of pride in bringing that brand out. And I'm really hoping to see it start on a much nicer upward trajectory.
And in other news, LeBron James is taking his talents to Philadelphia. Joe, we're gonna come to you first for this one. As a 76ers fan, what was your reaction to the announcement?
I think that the Sixers should be looking to build their franchise on players that are closer in age to my son, who's 22, than to me, who's 57. Signing a player in his 40s is signing him and all of his potential injuries. It's interesting. They've certainly created a lot of buzz if they wanted to get a lot of media mentions, if they wanted to get a lot of season ticket sales, things like that. They're doing the right thing. I thought moves that they made earlier in the summer were going to yield, better results. I mean, could have used the LeBron of 10 years ago. LeBron's almost eligible for retirement accounts. He can order off the seniors menu at Denny's right now, I think, at his age. I have mixed feelings about this one. I'm worried that this is going to be signing another free agent and getting 20 games out of him. The only hope I have is that the Philadelphia Medical University community, like Philadelphia is now, it's known as the Meds and Eds city, from having all of the medical universities, medical schools, and pharmaceutical companies. If they could somehow collectively pool their resources to keep LeBron, and let's not forget the other boo-boo, walking boo-boo, Joel Embiid, healthy and on the court and maybe get like 50% of the games out of those guys on an 82-game regular season schedule. And maybe they have something. But beyond that, I can practically hear LeBron's knee cracking right now.
And Adam, with that, we'll come to you on this. I'm seeing Philadelphia opened around 60-1 to win the NBA title next season. And that's now in the range of 6-1 after adding LeBron as well as Jaylen Brown. How have their offseason acquisitions moved the needle as far as what you're seeing at Prime Sports and Bet, Chris?
It moved it to what? Yeah, I mean, I'll have to check the charts on that one because that feels like a big air move on a big old man move. As a more old school than new school, and the debates that I get into my kids about Jordan versus LeBron. For me, this was sort of a bit of a much ado about nothing. Yeah, an older guy, legend, moving to another city, which he's moved to a lot of those cities. When I last looked at the...
Oh, well, wait a second. He's not actually moving to Philadelphia. This was the big news story on the weekend. He's going to live in New York City, and then he's going to helicopter down every day, which I don't know that I would do that because of what happened to Kobe. But he's going to spend half of his $8 million compensation, they estimated, on helicopter rides so that he doesn't have to live in Philadelphia.
I don't wrong him from living in New York over Philadelphia.
Oh, fuck you.
But yeah, I would not be helicoptering anywhere as a high-end NBA player these days in on an East Coast that has bad weather. That one doesn't make any sense either. But going back to it, that's an insane move. I mean, I remember backing when the Celtics got Garnett. I got the info the day before. I backed it at 50s everywhere, and maybe it went into 16s or 20s or something like that. This seems a crazy move for caliber of his, where he's at today versus yesteryear. But I don't know if anyone caught on, got it early, got the odds early before the traders put it up or did anything with it. But I will definitely check on that one.
Yeah, and we're still seeing quite a bit of variability in terms of where you might want to shop for this. I'm seeing as low as plus 610, as high as plus 1100. Adam, when it comes to markets like this, how much of that could be due to the information-driven moves since we're just in the offseason? And how much of it is, hey, this is so far out, a lot of books might not be paying a ton of attention to this yet, and therefore maybe it's just not the most efficient market at this stage.
Definitely not an efficient market. However, for all those Kalshi and Polymarket and all those players that can play the no on this one, this feels like definitely an investment over the course of some months to get on the other side, having it drop that short. I mean, that's maybe Circa have the yes-no as well, because this just feels like massive overreaction, probably more traders at places that don't really know what they're doing overreaction versus pure money driving it in that sense. And I imagine it'll ease out a bit before the season starts. So I think this is definitely an opportunity if the market's overmoved, getting on those no markets, sitting on it for a month, maybe 2 months, and then that market's slowly coming out. And as Joe said, there's another key player on that team that seems to be injured a lot as well. So it just could turn into an absolute bust on it. And maybe the big opportunity here is fading the news, fading the market move, and getting on the no in the division, the conference, the title, and whatever else you can find.
All right, and with that, we will shift gears from the decision to the documentary that's taken gambling Twitter by storm. Netflix's rapid turnaround InstaDocs series dropped The Prediction Games on July 26th, pulling in CFTC chair Michael Seelig, Kalshi's Tarek Mansour, and Polymarket's Shane Coplin. It hit Netflix's top 10 within days, and Kalshi has called the film sensationalized and threatened legal action over trailer footage appearing to show trades placed in Nevada where prediction markets are banned. Adam, you've watched this industry from the trading side for decades. What was your gut reaction to the documentary? And now that it's out, who do you think came out looking like winners and losers in the court of public opinion?
Quick shout out to the cameo, Mark Patterson, Australian, former PointsBet, popped up there for a millisecond, whatnot. I thought Kalshi come out pretty well of it. I mean, I think with them having the enforcement group, which I would have not expected at all at that level in watching that stuff. I think some of the Spotify stuff where they got the information that you reacted and they pulled on it, stuff like that. Like It does seem like they are on top of things more so than what I thought. Coming out of the World Cup, I've definitely got a bit of FOMO of not being more engaged. I was concentrating on other things, and the amount of volume and recreational volume that was played in that, it seems like a lot of market makers, market takers took absolute advantage of it and crush it. And now it's kind of getting ready for the next football season where liquidity is going to be up and things like that. The other thing I got out of it is if that chef kid is any good, maybe I need to hire a personal chef. I definitely need to get into better shape and maybe help him gamble a little bit better. And maybe he has some other accounts that can be flipped into recreational and whatnot. There were some highs and lows and a bit of information and whatnot, but it just shows, I mean, the opening cut of the people at the MGM mansion or whatever else, I would want them all as customers. I don't care what they're winning or what they're, every single one of them I would want as a customer at my book. But I think it's showing that there is, it goes back to what you hear about the Rex coming through Robinhood and I'd love to grab a handful of those and push them into the sportsbook side of it. Obviously, they have a massive advantage being almost countrywide because I know for sure that Michigan has shut them down. A few other states as well where people can't play them. But I actually thought they come out of it looking decently versus being sort of vilified or anything. I think what really comes out is more of the way that states and the federal aspect of it is structured, the way that there's really no rules to the game. I mean, they're still trying to work out that stuff. So it's really just seeing how it plays out. But I don't think that's necessarily on Kalshi or Polymarket. They found a loophole, made out like bandits. And on the flip side, it's really showing that we've always said the fantasy was a Trojan horse to sports betting ultimately to iGaming. But there seems like there's that bitter spot between sports betting and iGaming that they're really turning everything into a casino game. And there's people that are going to get ruined more so in prediction markets than sports betting ever could have done to them. There's definitely some challenges ahead, but at the end of the day, I actually thought Kalshi come out of that looking a lot better than what I think they're perceived as already.
And Joe, the documentary covers touts, corporate rivalries, problem gaming, market manipulation, regulatory structures, and other storylines. What were your main takeaways, and what do you think mass market audiences are taking from it?
My main takeaways, I think it's ludicrous that they continue to laud Tarek and Shane as innovators when all they did was swipe an idea that our good friend Jeff Iffer, the gaming attorney, had been pushing with the CFTC through proper channels for 6 years or so. And then they thought, oh, wow, what a great idea. Let's just not wait around for the CFTC to say it's permissible. Let's just start doing it. And that's what they did. There's nothing innovative about what they've done. Every time I see these things, which are kind of hagiographic of like, oh, look at this new thing. There's nothing new about it. Don't wine a new bottle, including starting off with the douchebag touts. I mean, that looked like any other sports betting oriented documentary with the guys flashing the stupid rings and the watches and the stacks of cash. And like, I'm with Adam. Those guys look like such morons. I would book every bet that I could out of them personally. I don't think that kind of stuff does the broader mission of Kalshi and Polymarket and other DCMs fighting for their life in the federal courts to maintain their business right now any easier, because they just keep by showing how similar they are to sports betting, they're undercutting, I think, the whole source of truth part of the business. Finally, there's never been a better time to be a player in this industry. We talk about the companies, we talk about the law, we talk about the states, federal versus state, CFTC, all of those things. But from the consumer's perspective, the player's perspective, it's never been a better time to be a player, to be able to get down and all the different options ever. They should all be making hay while the sun shines. Use every single option. Okay. And, when we think about how, we have friends who are going to be at Bet Bash and that we know who they've wanted to get into the regulating. They want to participate in the regulating. They've had the door blocked. They aren't able to get their liquidity in with it. Now you can say they can, and they're doing quite well at Kalshi and Polymarket and the others. So that's, I think, a net plus, because that's to the extent it is regulated, it's a better result than having that money entirely outside
okay.
of the regulated marketplace, right? And it's all been to the benefit of the players, which is outstanding.
As always, the Sports Gambling Networking Conference is hosted by professional bettor Gadoon Spanky Carollos. And in line with recent years, will feature 20 plus seminars and the Sports Gambling Hall of Fame induction ceremony as its capstone. Adam, what are you looking forward to at this year's event? And what are your primary goals and objectives coming into it?
Primary goals and objectives are pretty much the same, just to meet more people, see what they're doing in the space. I think this time last year I was big in driving Prime Sports, just looking to get, Arizona up and running. So really looking for players. I think now it's more looking in the other side of it, of who's building what, how can some of these things be integrated, what data is out there with some of the companies that I've invested in that maybe a modeler might be able to take and spin into something that's, useful for both sides of the market. And really, again, just looking at the football season coming up, seeing where people are at, and potentially prediction market conversations, I imagine will be taking up a lot of that time as well. But there's people that I've sort of never met, been speaking to online over the course of the last 12 months. I think the World Cup was a lot of fun, and it picked up a few, new people that I've never met, but starting to have conversations with back and forth. So it's really just catching up with old friends, meeting new ones, seeing what people are looking to do in the industry, try and help out anyone that's looking to get better at their sports betting or asking for any advice or anything of that nature, and maybe some new products out there that are worth taking a look at investing in and backing and sort of supporting on that side of it. I think I'm looking at a much broader range than just concentrating on what we've got, what we have in sort of the technology, the sports betting, the 4 states that we now have a bit more control or management over, Ohio getting it back up and running, and really just trying to engage more people. It's a lot of, account chasing and different sort of things that come out of BetBash, not necessarily your recreational players or your whales or those things that are ultimately, potentially game changing for us. It's also building the relationships with the assassins and the syndicates and things like that, because there is spots where we may be the best price and they're still looking for action. And we're taking sort of a really forward step into, yes, it's an all welcome in sportsbook, but if you're going to be a shithead and take shots, then we'll leave you at the door kind of thing. So we've kind of got to lean into what's different about us, what we're willing to take on. We're meat and potatoes, not too worried about props and some of those things. And if you're going to take shots, then we're going to take shots back kind of thing. So an all-encompassing where you get everyone. And then obviously every night finishes upstairs. And that's usually where the best conversations take place as well.
Yeah, I think that's the one hard and fast rule I have for myself this year, is to end each night at the Legacy Club. Beyond that, I'm kind of viewing this as my BetBash redemption tour, if you will, because last year I missed the conference for the first time due to a double whammy the weekend before the conference. On Saturday, I tore my Achilles, and on that Sunday, water damage forced my wife and I out of our house for 4 months. So next week, it'll be great to be back there, and I'm going to take a different approach than BetBashes 1 through 4, looking to keep things intentionally open-ended and really focusing on going with the flow. I feel like at BetBash in past years and in life in general, I can plan and optimize things to a fault, and that comes with its benefits, but it can also be a double-edged sword. So I'm really just looking forward to letting spontaneity do its thing in Vegas. And Joe, your BetBash attendance is impeccable, if I'm recalling correctly. So as someone who's seen the growth and evolution of the event, what does an entire conference built around industry networking and legends say about the state of mainstream betting? And for this year's edition, what are you most looking forward to?
I think what's interesting is it's still the only one, at least here in the United States. Clearly, the most important part of the industry are the players, are the customers. And so frequently we hear people talking about the customers and what the customers want and what the customers need, but they're not customers. And so there's an awful lot of guessing. And here's a fantastic opportunity to talk to money-paying customers. Now, you can argue that this one, it's a little skewed demographically because, some of these are sharps, would-be sharps, movers networks, whole roads gallery. But that's a pretty significant chunk of the liquidity that goes into this marketplace. Being able to account for that and meet those people and get a better understanding of their perspective on the industry, it's invaluable. And I honestly don't know why all of the other sports books and prediction markets don't send their crack teams to go there and interview every single person they can at these conferences.
And with that, we will sign off for this week. A quick programming note, it's going to be a Bet Bash bye week for us next week. Say hello to us if you'll be there in Vegas. Otherwise, we won't catch you on Prime Suspects next week. So after nursing some hangovers from late nights at Legacy Club and with a full NFL preseason slate on the board, we'll catch you right back here in a couple weeks. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Prime Suspects. Register for Prime Sports at primesports.com and download the Prime Sports app. You can follow us on Twitter at @PrimeSuspects_, at Joe Brennan Jr., and at Adam Bjorn. You must be 21 or over to play on Prime Sports. Always bet responsibly and within your limits. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.